guys, it's Carolyn. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here. And today we have a very exciting topic, especially as we start 24, is what reports you need to look at a construction company and how often to make sure that you're profitable and that you're making money. And I have a great guest with me today, Eric Fortenberry, the founder of JobTread. Says great experience, has like the best construction management software out there. Everybody I talk to raves about their customer service and how they are always innovating their product. Hey, Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, Caroline. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. All right, before we jump into the types of reports we think are important, tell us how you founded JobTread. I know you've probably told this story 1,000 times, but I think it has great relevance.
Yeah, so I had a buddy of mine who was running a construction company here in Dallas. He was, really just struggling to scale the business. They were doing about 5 million in sales. Had about 10 employees. Running, anywhere from 10 to 15 jobs at one time. And he essentially asked me to come over and help him. Just kind of take a look at the business, help them figure out how they could scale it because they were just hitting this 5 million glass ceiling that they couldn't break through. And when I went in, I immediately just saw the chaos everywhere. We had papers and binders and it was just every day subs were or their employees were walking in turning their timesheets. They had all of their suppliers emailing in their bills that they'd print out and put into this this folder, and then they take it to a project manager meeting, and someone was signing off on it, and then someone else had to type it into a spreadsheet, and then it got copied over to this other spreadsheet, and then someone else then typed it into QuickBooks, and I just saw just a chaotic situation, and I was just like, wow, guys, this is very, very apparent that you all need just leverage some software. A lot of this could be streamlined by having a construction management software in place. And so that's when I went and kind of just looked at everything out there and tried them all, kind of came up with this big spreadsheet just analyzing everything. And at the end of the day, though, I struggled to make a recommendation for them because I felt like a lot of the software was either kind of very antiquated or it was going to take a lot to be able to customize and set up for our business, and or super expensive. And so, the owners were like, well, you're a software guy. Can't you just build us something? And I was like, well, hold on. I'm not trying to create another thing that you're going to have to maintain. And, I really wasn't looking for a full-time job either. I was just kind of coming in to help out. But one thing led to another. And I ultimately told them, look, my conditions are I take over as CEO. I give you 1 year, and everything I build's my intellectual property. So if this does have the potential to become my next software company, then I'd have that option to go and pursue it. And so they agreed, and we ended up partnering up, and I essentially just kind of started at the very beginning saying, all right, well, let's get ourselves organized. Like, who are all of our customers and where are their contacts? Who are our vendors? Who are our trade partners and suppliers? And let's get all that information centralized. And then we started looking at the job and how we were estimating our jobs. And what I found out was a lot of the sales guys, they were just totally making up numbers. They were leveraging their experience as they would say. And I'm just like, yeah, but just because you can look at a project and come up with some number, once the customer agrees to it, you hand off that job to a project manager and you're saying, go get us our 30%. Well, how in the world are they supposed to know how you came up with that? There's just such a disconnect. And so, that's really kind of where a lot of JobTread's financial components came from, because I said, all right, look, we're going to build a budget tool, and in this budget tool, you need to figure out what are all of the costs that are going to go into this job. So understanding, what materials we're going to need, what, labor is going to be required, any other, components that need to go in there, we would put that in there. And then ultimately we would calculate the price based on all of those costs and leveraging our target profit margin. We were targeting 30% at the time. And, I also found that some of the guys were using a 30% markup instead of a 30% profit margin. So a 30% markup is only going to get you a 23% profit margin. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot right out the gate and had no chance of hitting our 30% profit margin. So, we started with the estimating and budgeting piece though. And then we moved into the operational side, doing the job costing, leveraging purchase orders and work orders, with our trade partners and suppliers, essentially being able to commit out of our budget so that we could see in real time, where are we at? How are we tracking? And not have to wait, 30, 45 days, however long it takes for your suppliers and your subs and trade partners to send you a bill. You can now see in real time, where you're going over budget. And so ultimately the goal was to throw the flag early so that we knew where to go focus and whether we needed to renegotiate. Maybe we had materials on the wrong job. Something had happened that put us over budget. And so, being able to have that, the job costing component, was tremendously helpful. And then obviously, when you do get the bills and being able to compare that to what the purchase order was. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times we double paid bills, we way overpaid. Like, it was just such a disconnect with the back office, team was just not, they just kind of everything came in, they processed it, paid it off, and who knows what it was for, right? So I think having JobTread really enabled us to connect the back office to the field, and so we could share that information. Same thing on the invoicing side, like the field guys say, hey, can you go ahead and send that progress invoice to the customer? So the office would send it. Well, the office figured that the project managers would follow up with the customer and make sure they got paid. Well, the field guys, the project managers had no visibility into the back office. They had no idea. And so we actually, when I took over this business, we had over $800,000 in debt. And instead of focusing on collecting our hard-earned money, they were taking that and they were collateralizing it and taking out $200,000 loans from the bank to fund the business. And I was just like, oh, whoa, this is a huge issue. So, ultimately we got all that reined in, got it connected to QuickBooks. And so we could have a lot more transparency, across the entire team about where we're at. And, and then, a lot of the project management, software, or like scheduling, daily logs, organizing all of our photos and files. I mean, ultimately we built JobTread out of a needs basis. And so at the end of that year, I had helped grow them from 5 to 8 million in sales. We increased their gross profit by 43%. Lo and behold, if you track it, you can definitely hit your target profit margins.
So whatever gets managed, whatever gets, watched gets managed, and then that's where you make money. And so and I know that all of this sounds so overwhelming for like the average construction business that is not doing this. They're just kind of like throwing a bid out there, getting jobs, and not really realizing, and sometimes not even at the end of the day. So I know you deal with clients like this all the time. Where do you start? What do you start with? What's the first report? It seems also overwhelming. What's like the first baby step you would take?
Well, I think just first of all, making sure you've got a good handle on, where your estimates, kind of where, your leads, right? Like, so I kind of just like start at the top of the funnel. Let's focus on sales first. Let's make sure that we understand, where all the leads are, what, stage they're in. Are they new? Have they been contacted? Have we had an appointment? Have we sent a proposal? If we've sent a proposal, well, when do we need to follow up? Like, are we following up? Like, if you don't follow up, your chance of getting that deal is much less. And so like, I kind of like to start, just sort of thinking about the start at the top of the funnel, and focus on all of our estimating, making sure that we have a good handle on what jobs we've estimated. If we haven't sent the proposal, we need to make sure that we're being responsive. We're getting those out the door. After that, I think once you win a job, it's very important that, again, you leverage the budgeting tools and doing that job costing to make sure that you can see in real time, any jobs that you are overrunning your budget. And I think that's the neat thing about JobTread is that like you can view all of the reports across all of your jobs. So you're not having to go job by job by job. You can basically see, at a macro level, as a business owner, where do I need to focus my time? And I'm looking for the jobs that are overrunning the budget, or they're basically, off track on the schedule, and so I think those are kind of the two things that, and that's how that really tremendously helped us scale at the construction company. Like when I walked out, we could run like 70 to 80 jobs at one time. Wow. And it was tremendous growth, and we were hitting our target profit margins. But that's because, by being able to kind of monitor, at a high level and just seeing all the daily logs, seeing all the photos coming in, like I still had visuals without having to go and babysit on the job site for every single job. And then I had the financial reporting to help me understand, were we tracking? Was everything on track? If so, then I didn't need to get involved in those deals. It was just the ones that were not on track. So again, I think kind of looking at, what jobs are over budget, monitoring your we project your profitability for every single job, being able to keep an eye on that. Obviously looking at, your sales year to date, kind of sales by month, things like that are obviously very important. But, again, to the accounts receivable perspective, like making sure you're monitoring all of your customers with open invoices. Yeah. Like, do not let those get stale. Like every day that goes by, your chance of collecting that money is dwindling. And it's so unfortunate. And I actually learned a really great thing, great tip from you, that like, it's so important that in your contracts, you have a statement that says, if you don't get paid, what actions you can take, which ultimately should be to stop work. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess in some states, right, like if you don't have that in there, you may not be able to stop work even if you don't get paid.
Exactly. And so, and that definitely like letting them know, hey, I issued this invoice. We expect payment in 5 days. If not, I'm going to stop working.
Yeah.
But I think that's a huge thing, looking at the daily reports on your jobs. I don't know. I guess I learned so much in the last year as a business owner, and having daily reports of what's going on in the business when you still have time to fix it or change it.
Yeah.
And all of that visibility is like, okay, this crew is having a problem. Let's go investigate, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that, exactly what you said. I mean, like, if you can address issues in real time, then you can course correct. You can go and, maybe there was some additional cost that you need to go get a change order from the customer from,
Mhm.
and if you don't do that in the moment, and if you wait until the end of the job where you've already sent them your final invoices and now you're trying to come back after the fact, like, there's no way. You got to do it in real time. And so, it's so important that, that I think that's what this job costing tool really gives you, that ability, to just keep your jobs on track. And then if anything happens, again, you can take action right there.
So how long, like if somebody gets JobTread, how long does it take to set up? Is it like a forever in process? It seems like overwhelming. What do I got to put in there? How does that work?
No, I mean, it really heavily depends on how much, time and effort, you're committed to putting in there when you first sign up. Every single JobTread customer gets assigned a dedicated customer success manager. Our entire customer success team has construction experience. We very much understand, your day to day, what you're going through. We've implemented, thousands of construction companies on this. And so, as much as you're, willing to put in some time and effort to get the data, I think ultimately what I see is that a lot of times it's the biggest challenge is that people don't have a good handle on their numbers. They
Yeah.
don't understand, and they haven't taken the time to create this catalog of all of their cost. You're leveraging the same types of cost, whether it's your laborers, maybe it's, your trade partners, your subs, your electricians, your plumbers, your carpenters, your own employees, the same materials. Like, you're taking that into account on all of your jobs. And so having that organized into one place, and we can, again, if you have it in an Excel, or CSV, like, we just import that into your catalog for you. I think that is, ultimately one of the biggest kind of exercises that we have to go through with each new, customer. And so the more kind of data that they've already got, like if they already have templates, budget templates, kind of whatever you're doing today, share that with us. Hopefully, you've got it in Excel, and we can kind of help import that. Typically that's what I see takes the longest. But, we usually see people, who sign up, you could literally, I've seen people send out estimates and get them approved in the same day, or it might take you a few weeks. We do have an amazing online training where, like, there's live trainings every day, or the whole series of them has been recorded. Our director of learning and development, Anna Hunter, she actually has a PhD in organizational change and management and organizational leadership, and so she's put together this whole curriculum to help kind of guide people through that onboarding process.
Mhm.
And if you're switching from another system, then obviously there's typically reports and things that we can help you run, from there to help move over, a lot of the data. But, it kind of takes a little bit of time to figure out, like, what is, what information do you need to bring over versus what has already been synced into, your accounting system. A lot of times, people just kind of start fresh on JobTread, close out your existing jobs, new jobs get started here.
Yeah.
Um,
So you don't
so
have to move all that stuff over. What other reports do you think that it's important for construction business owners to look at?
Yeah, I would say, kind of going along with what we were talking about earlier. So we worked with several accountants earlier in the year to create a WIP report across all of your jobs. So it's a work in progress, or sometimes it's known as percentage of completion accounting, where basically you can see, based on, what you sold the job for, how much has been, essentially, the budget, how much your projected costs are, what your actuals are, your cost to complete, looking at kind of the budget variance, and then ultimately, like, your projected profit, projected profit margin is very important. So you can see when that starts to slip between what you sold the job at and what the job is running today. And then that lets you ultimately determine, the percentage of the job that is complete based on those actuals so far, which can then tell you how much revenue you've earned at that point. And you can look at how much you've invoiced, the customer for. So you may be over or under, based on what you've actually earned. And so, that's been a really, really powerful, tool that a lot of our customers have really enjoyed. We also have, again, kind of a report about, the number of scheduled days, for that job, and even looking at your profit per day, understanding not every job is equal here. And you got to really understand what are the best types of jobs for your business. Like, I see a lot of contractors who are trying to do everything and be, this generalist instead of being more like a niche specialist, and so when you can start to, compare the jobs that are better suited for you based on, are you hitting that target profit margin? Like, where are you making the most money? What jobs are selling and what jobs aren't selling, and what jobs can you execute and deliver your profitability on? That really starts to help you refine, your business, and even, turn into your marketing efforts. Where should we be, marketing our business? We can't be everything to everybody. And so understanding that, I think, is really helpful.
Absolutely.
Probably one of my all-time favorite reports actually is is being able to look at all of your subcontractors and their certificate of insurances and when are they expiring.
That's awesome.
Right after I took over that construction business, we got audited by our insurance provider, and they said, hey, before we can renew your policy, we want to see all of the certificate of insurances from all the subs who worked on any job the last 12 months. And I was like, okay, great. And I go back to the office and say, hey, can you guys go ahead and just pull that together? We need to share that with the insurance company. And they're like, well, yeah. So Eric, we always collected it when the trade started with us, but they didn't always give us an update every year. So we might not have that information. I was like, what do you mean? We're sending subcontractors, trade partners, to represent us and do work on a job, and they might not have insurance? Well, I guess that could actually be the case. And so we turned in everything we had. We got fined $35,000 for all of the subs that did not have an up-to-date certificate of insurance. And it's like, it was such a crazy mistake to incur. Like, we had to come up with $35,000, before the end of that month, or they weren't going to renew our policy. And it's like, where are you supposed to come up with that? When you got cash flow challenges already, we're already borrowing money from the banks, and so again, just tracking that and being able to know when is that sub's, certificate of insurance going to expire, and so now I basically create one, that essentially is, it'll start showing you as soon as, let's say that, 60 days before the expiration, I want to get notified, and we have a report that kind of shows, you can adjust. Maybe you only want to do 30 days out, but I do recommend, a lot of times your trade partners might need a little bit more time, and they might need a couple, reminders. But as soon as that thing's past due, you got to stop sending them to the job site. It is not worth taking on, the ultimate risk here is that something happens. For us, there was no deaths, no injuries. We had no major thefts or vandalisms or any issues where we had to file a claim. But that would have been a really bad day if that would have happened. And so, I encourage people, don't do it. It's not worth it. And there's no cost to you. The cost is, it's up to them. They need to be insured. And, if you're going to hire them, then you need to make sure that, your people are covered. So that's probably my favorite report.
How else does JobTread make it easier to work with subs and vendors?
Yeah. So, I think the neat thing is that, we essentially have a way where you can send all of your subs, you can send them bid requests where they can, directly input what the cost will be, for them to work on your job. So, it's super easy to send them a bid request, or, once you get it in, if you want to convert that to a work order, or to a purchase order, you can easily do that, send that to them. The neat thing is that when they get, an email from JobTread, all they have to do is click that link. They don't have to download anything. They don't need to create a username and password or anything. It takes them straight to the document that you issued them. And so you can invite them to bid on your jobs, or, just assign them work. I'm a big believer in making sure, I have our guys, sign every single document, every work order, every purchase order. Again, it's just, CYA, right? There's no reason not to make sure that you have in writing that they have agreed to this price When a funny story, when I first took over that construction business, we were selling our jobs at fixed price, and we were paying our subs time and material. And I learned the hard way. One, you can't have a fixed price job with a variable cost.
Yeah.
And then I started really digging in and trying to understand, why are some of these guys typically performing pretty well, but then there's, a bunch of them that are way over. Like, why are we overrunning our budget every time, depending on which crew we hired for the job? And so I actually started following, a couple of them around, a few days, and I showed up to the job site at 8 a.m. This is one crew in particular. I show up at 8 a.m., sitting there wondering, well, where are the guys? They're not here. So they get there about 9. Apparently they had to go to Home Depot, get all the materials. So, that's on me. I learned my lesson. I should have had all the materials already ready, if not picked up and on the job site, at least ready for them to just pick up, and not have to go shop. So they get to the job site at 9. About 11 o'clock, 11:30, they realize they need to go back to Home Depot. So, again, and instead of just one guy running back, all 3 of them needed to go back. So they go back to Home Depot, call it, the 45 minutes. They come back, and then we got lunch. So now we got to take an hour break for lunch. I kid you not, a third time in the afternoon around 2:30, they needed to go back to Home Depot again, and all 3 of them went. And the customer's sitting there wondering, what in the world's going on? Why do they keep leaving? And I'm sitting there, I have no idea, and so, but that's when I realized that we were not aligned. They were incentivized to drag this job out, and so for them, the longer it took, they are getting paid by the day. And so, that's when we really, I realized we needed to switch to sending out, just fixed contracts, fixed agreements with our subcontractors. And it's like, look, you tell me how long it's going to take. If you say it's going to take 5 days and you need X, to be able to deliver that job, great. And if you do it in 3 days, awesome. You're still getting paid for 5. I took your number and I put my margin and I sold the job based on that information. Now, if it takes you 7 days, well, that's on you, and again, if there's some situation has come up that we can get a change order with the customer, like something unforeseen, I totally get it. But if you guys are going to go and just inventory Home Depot or do whatever you're doing, that's unacceptable, and so I think that's where, though, with JobTread, we've made it so much easier for them to be able to, really get all of the information that they need for the jobs. They started coming much more prepared. I asked the guys early on too. I said, well, what is your biggest frustration with working with our company? And they said, we show up at the job site and we have no idea what we need to do. The plans haven't been shared with us. We don't know the specifications. We can't get a hold of the project manager. So they're literally just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, getting paid. So, at least, they feel like they're on the clock. But, that's where I think JobTread has been tremendously helpful for them, because now they already have access to the plans. They understand what needs to happen. It just creates a much better kind of system for them to work within and be able to get that information that they need, ahead of time, or at least when they need it right then and there on their phones. And so I think that's been a tremendous help, to be able to kind of have everybody on the same page and a lot more efficient.
Well, yeah, and then you can see the visibility as to why you're not making any money on those jobs, and then dig in like you did and figure out how to fix it. Without the visibility, you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Like we literally were just totally. My original advice to the construction companies: you guys might as well go to Vegas and roll the dice. Like, it was a total crapshoot on how they were going to perform on a job. Seriously,
the estimating is not in line with that, but guys that actually do the work, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I know this probably always changes for you, but tell me one of your favorite client success stories.
I would say one of my all-time favorite is this guy John Hanlon. They got a really great crew, and he ended up calling me up one day. It's like, Eric, I want you to know, for the first time in company history, we just sold over $1 million job, and he said, like, this is like gonna just feed all of us for so long. He said, I never would have been able to win this job without JobTread. The way that, we were able to organize such a large scope, like they had never taken on a job of this size, but they had such a detailed budget. It helped make sure that they accurately priced it. They sent it to the customer. Customer said it was the most professional, estimate that he had received from anyone. He had the confidence to move forward, with John and his team. And, it was just such an awesome story to hear that, like, we're able to help them really grow their business in such a huge way. So, and they're just near and dear to my heart. It's a great team. But yeah, I was very, very excited for them.
No, it's amazing how much you can do when you have clarity and reports and you know what you're doing. It really can accelerate things and make it not so frustrating to be a contractor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And a
what
lot of times I
would
feel like so many contractors, there are those guys out there who, guys and gals who give, all contractors a bad rap. And it's because, a lot of times it's not that they're, maliciously trying to, just screw up the jobs and underperforming. And, I mean, sometimes, yeah, there are contractors who are just taking people's money and running. And I mean, those are criminals. I don't even want to call them contractors, but like, helping contractors become more organized and making sure that they're managing the cash flow of these jobs is so important. And I think ultimately that's what you need to be able to build a successful business and to be able to scale your business is to have a system and to have processes that will enable you to manage it from the very beginning all the way through to close out and deliver, that great customer experience.
No, I agree. And I talked to contractor after contractor who thinks they're doing the client a favor by doing free stuff and not even telling them. And it really just ruins the job because then the owner starts expecting all the stuff for free and
Yeah.
then he doesn't like it anyways and you don't value it, so he doesn't value it. And talk about a job tanking. I cannot tell you how many
No.
jobs end up in litigation with the contractor. I just wanted to make them happy. I didn't charge them extra. That's just
No.
the opposite of what you would think. It's going to
Yeah.
make it worse. It's
Gotta
going to
have
make it
change
worse
orders.
because I think you'll just work for free and it'll
Yeah.
never be good enough.
I mean,
So
it's so crazy though to see, like, again, such large jobs sometimes getting sold without the proper contracts and documentation and a scope of work. Like, you've got to
exactly.
be detailed in order to be successful. And it's not, it might not be as important every, maybe you sell 9 out of 10 jobs and they go great and you have no issues, but it's that
That's all you
one
want.
time that's the one that like could sink you. I mean, I've seen people go out of business because of a simple mistake that basically put them in the hole.
Exactly. Exactly. And then if you have the right contract language, it could prevent that. Even if you do a misstep, you can be
Yeah.
protected. But I know I hear all the great things about job, try to push people there all the time. So if people want to know more, where should they go?
Yeah, I would suggest check out our website, www.jobtread.com. We've got a ton of information, lots of videos. You can also check out our YouTube channel. We have just tons of information out there. But anyone who would love to get a demo, right on our website, you can hit the schedule a demo button, and that will let you kind of see the times and availability. Pick a time. Our team is happy to hop on. Spend 45 minutes to an hour walking you through the product. I mean, we want to make sure it's going to be a good fit for you as well. And so, we're happy to kind of do that deep dive to show you how it would work. And ultimately, we'd love to be able to work with all the contractors out there. And it's a great system. We've had tons and tons of success, and I'm excited to hopefully help everyone else who's not currently using JobTread be able to build a better business that's profitable. Helps everybody spend more time with their families, and getting paid those is extremely important.
Absolutely. And so I heard you started a podcast too. Tell us about that.
Yep. So we've got Builder Stories is our podcast. I started it, I think middle of this year. It's a really neat thing where essentially I just interview business owners who maybe at various stages in their journey, with the ultimate kind of premise that like we want to help others be able to learn from the lessons that they've learned along the way. What were their biggest challenges? Like, how did they overcome these challenges? And it might be from sales to operations to dealing with difficult, customers, whatever it may be. Like it's such a cool, thing for all of these, business owners to really share their stories and their experiences so that others who are, earlier on in their journey might hopefully be able to kind of skip over a few of those hard lessons that, that many of us have had to learn along the way. And we just hear tremendous feedback that it's very helpful for them to just be able to hear from others. And so that's kind of what our goal is. We actually publish an episode every Wednesday early in the morning. And so we got tons of great. I think we've got over 20 episodes now out so far. But
that's awesome. Well, great job, Eric. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Caroline.